Hello, I'm here today to talk to you about the CastleFire 72 firing system. You'll see that the inside of the main system looks a lot like many other firing systems that are out there. We have different banks, which are addressable through a bank selector knob. Banks A through L. We have different queues, queue 1 through 6. That's 6 queues per bank at 12 banks, gives you 72 queues total. There's a USB connection that is for using the system with the supplied software in order to do an automated fired show or a pyro musical. There is a charging port in order to charge the internal battery. There's also a charging status to tell you how much power your battery currently has. There is a remote in and a remote out connection. Those are used when chaining multiple boxes together. You can use one of our DB26 cables to connect different units together, and you can actually address the units as 00 all the way up through 79. You can physically change the actual unit address right here. That way the software will know which box you want to fire when, so you could have multiple boxes firing from the software. There's also a safety plug, which you can either use a safety shunt, which is supplied with the system, or you can use a deadman switch, which you can buy optionally on our website. And there's also the main on-off switch, which is a keyed switch. Let's start with that. Place the key in, and you could either set the system into test mode or into on mode. Now if you put it into test mode, you'll see that everything lights up. Our charging status is green, which means we're good to go. If your charging status moves to yellow, that means it's going to be time to charge up soon. If your charging status moves to red, that means that you probably shouldn't fire a show. You might not have enough juice left in the battery to fire an entire show. But if you notice, everything is lit up. If we put in our safety shunt, the lights will turn off on all the plugs. But you'll notice that our status is still green, because our system is in a safe mode, which means you cannot fire any of the ports no matter what you do. If you touch these, if you touch the actual queues, you will not actually be able to fire any of the queues off. However, if we were connected, if we had our safety shunt plugged in and we turned the system on, it's kind of hard to see from the lighting, but you'll see that the status goes to red, which will give you the indication that it is time. The system is able to be fired at this point in time. Now, with your system, you'll also get a dozen Category 5 cables, Category 5E 100-foot cables, along with a dozen breakout boards. Now, you notice the breakout board, it's got a little spot for a bank letter. You can letter them if you'd like. They're also labeled igniter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for each position on the board itself. So, if we take our system and connect bank A to our breakout board, and if we take one of our consumer grade igniters and connect it to the first igniter position on the board, sometimes it's easier when you connect the igniters to double over the exposed copper wire to make sure that you get a good contact within the speaker terminal. Give them a little bit of a push. And if we turn our system into test mode, if we leave the safety shunt out, you'll see everything is green. The safety shunt in, you'll see that Q1 is showing green or connected. Status is also green. We turn the system into the on position. You see that status is red, meaning that the items that are out in the field are ready to be fired. And if we hold down on Q1, we'll actually fire this igniter. It's that simple. Once the connection inside the igniter has been burned, you'll see that Q1 turns off. And if we turn it back into test position, Q1 is off as well, even though it's connected, because this wire has been burnt out. And that's the basics of how to use the firing system manually. The setup for using the system automatically, or using the system with the software, is pretty much the same. You run your cables out to the different field units that you'll be using, and you connect the devices to the field units. If you're using our software, you could actually print out your show to see what should be connected to which queue on which bank. It makes things a little bit easier so that you're not confusing yourself. You could also, of course, put some tape on the cables to write down the bank that that cable will be associated with. I would also highly recommend using this spot right here on the breakout boards to label your banks that are going to be used with each breakout board. Once you have everything connected, you go through and do a continuity test of everything that is out in the field. While you are connecting, though, I highly recommend that you leave the unit off and leave the shunt out. I would also recommend that you do not connect any of your Cat5 connections to the box until you are ready to check continuity of everything that is out in the field. You should also make sure that your field is clear of people before you do any testing of continuity, and of course before you fire any show. You should make sure everything is safe. That's one of the reasons why we put in 2 layers of safety on our system, as well as the numerous layers of safety on our software as well, in order to help to prevent accidents. Thank you for joining us, and please take a look at some of our other videos of our software and some of our other pieces of hardware that we have for sale.